Hello, 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 and welcome back to the AI Café conversations where neuroscience meets AI for executives. I am Sahar Andrade, your AI whisperer. I will never forget watching Mira, a respected leader with 15 years of service, step into a new director role. She knew the programs, she knew the people, she had the trust of her team. But the moment the board mentioned a new AI donor platform, panic flickered in her eyes. 3 months later, half her team had quit. Mira didn't fail because of incompetence or laziness. She failed because her brain wasn't prepared for a world where AI is part of leadership. And that's the reality so many organizations are ignoring. Today, we will unpack why the human brain resists change, how AI is exposing unprepared leaders, and what neuroscience tells us about building leaders who are ready for the future. This is not our usual Wednesday podcast. This is our extra coffee flavor that I present to you based on my Forbes Coach Council articles on Friday.
So I want to start today with a genuinely surprising story. It's about a woman named Mira. Now, for 15 years, maybe more, she was basically the definition of success, right? A really respected, experienced leader at this major nonprofit. She knew everything, every policy, every donor, the whole internal setup inside out. So when she got promoted to director last year, the board felt pretty good, like they'd made the safest, most obvious choice.
Makes sense on the surface.
Yeah, but then things got weird. During a planning meeting, someone mentioned the new AI-based donor platform, automation stuff. And our analysis notes, she smiled, she nodded along. But apparently, there was just this flash of, pure panic in her eyes, just for a second.
The moment of truth.
Exactly. And it played out badly. Within 3 months, half her team, gone. They quit. And the whole platform project just stalled out. So Mira's failure, it wasn't really about lack of experience or, her leadership background. It was something deeper, neurological almost.
Yeah, Mira's experience is, I think, the defining leadership crisis of this decade, honestly. She was brilliant, totally capable, but, like our sources put it, she was failing because her brain was wired perfectly.
Right.
For a world that's, slowly vanishing.
Right.
We're seeing this again and again. Incredibly capable leaders just suddenly hitting a brick wall. Usually the moment things like serious data overloads, data complexity, or aggressive AI integration come into the picture.
Okay, let's unpack this right away, because I have to admit, I always kind of assumed resistance to change was more about ego or protecting your turf.
Yeah, that's the common thinking.
But the science here seems to suggest something else entirely. So our mission for this deep dive is really to get past that superficial fear, understand the actual brain science behind why leaders like Mira might collapse, and maybe most importantly, identify the, 4 non-negotiable mental shifts organizations need to focus on right now to build future-ready leaders.
Exactly. This isn't just about a new training course or some strategy doc. It's about fundamentally overriding these really deeply ingrained survival mechanisms in the brain.
Okay, let's jump straight into that surprising core issue then, why we freeze up. The fundamental neurological fact that really stood out to me was this. The human brain hates any change. Any. It doesn't seem to matter if the change is objectively good or bad. Your brain just flags uncertainty itself as a major immediate risk.
It's pure survival instinct.
Yep.
That's what you're seeing. Change triggers the amygdala, the brain's little alarm system, the fight, flight, or freeze center.
Right.
Or kicks it into full panic mode.
Yeah.
So even if the change is, say, implementing an AI tool that's going to cut manual work by 40% objectively good.
Yeah, sounds great.
The initial response is still a genuine stress reaction. You get pushback, resistance, sometimes total paralysis. You're essentially fighting your own biology every single time you ask someone to step into the unknown.
Which, wow, that provides a stunning explanation for some really bad succession planning I've seen. If the brain sees uncertainty as a threat, then it makes sense why boards, maybe unconsciously, lean towards people who look and act exactly like the old boss. It's like their collective brain is sighing in relief, thinking, oh, good, nothing scary here. Stability, we're safe.
And that exact pursuit of comfort, that feeling of safety, it's deadly today. Because the same old leader, the one who knows everything about the old systems. That's often the precise leader who's most likely to fail when the fundamental operating system of the organization, the data, how it flows, the tech has completely changed. They're trying to manage the team's fear about jobs, maybe, while also being totally overwhelmed themselves.
And that just leads us right into the data deluge issue, doesn't it? I mean, we are all drowning in metrics, alerts, dashboards.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's overwhelming almost by design, neurologically speaking. The neuroscience here highlights this fascinating limitation we have, your prefrontal cortex, the strategic thinking hub. It can only juggle about 7 distinct pieces of information in working memory at any given time, maybe fewer for some people. After that, it just starts dropping stuff. Crucial data points get lost.
7 things, wow.
Yeah. So if leaders are already maxed out just trying to process this constant flood of metrics and automated alerts from AI systems, they have literally 0 bandwidth left for the hard stuff: strategic thinking, empathy, managing the huge emotional shifts that AI inevitably causes in a team.
Which probably explains why my grocery list is usually missing milk and bread.
Exactly. Now, imagine trying to run a multinational company under that kind of constant cognitive load.
Okay, that reality, that cognitive limit, brings us neatly to what you called the crisis nobody's talking about, which is the incredibly wrong questions that are apparently still dominating boardroom discussions during succession decisions. If we could be a fly on the wall, what are, say, the top 3 questions that are just setting organizations up for failure?
They're almost depressingly consistent. Number 1, who knows our current systems best? Number 2, who's been here the longest? Tenure. And number 3, who won't rock the boat? Who's the safe pair of hands?
Right. And while those sound prudent, maybe even responsible,
Yeah, they sound safe.
our analysis shows they lead directly to picking the safest option, who is usually the person most resistant to fundamental change. But why do we keep falling back on those metrics? Tenure, system knowledge.
Because they trigger that exact same comfort response we were just talking about.
Yeah.
That amygdala saying, familiar, safe. Tenure and system knowledge are tangible. They're known quantities. Measuring adaptability, curiosity, much harder. But selecting the quote-unquote safest person often just sets the organization up for the same kind of disaster we saw in that water utility example we looked at.
Okay, yeah, let's bring that example back to life. It was quite stark.
It really was. So imagine this utility promotes a highly experienced engineer. Great guy, walked those pipes for 20 years, knows every valve, supposedly irreplaceable.
The old system.
Exactly, in the old system. Then they install a new AI leak detection system, and it starts flashing these red warnings.
Yeah.
But they contradict his 20 years of gut instinct. And what happens? He freezes. His brain literally cannot synthesize the old known path with this new uncertain data from the machine.
So the outcome was?
Terrible. He ends up sending crews out to manually check every single alert, even the low probability ones. Burns through the entire maintenance budget, exhausts his team, all because, fundamentally, he didn't trust the machine. He couldn't adapt his thinking.
He basically substituted high-cost, high-effort manual labor for strategic thinking about the new tool.
Precisely. Now, contrast him with a new manager over at a neighboring utility. Same tech, same AI system. This manager, maybe younger, maybe just different mindset, trusts the AI's capabilities. They investigate only the high-probability alerts the system flags using its predictive models. And the result? They successfully prevent 3 major leaks and stay under budget.
Wow. Same technology, completely different outcomes.
Completely different.
So the key takeaway here isn't that experience is bad, obviously,
No, not at all.
but that experience absolutely must be paired with the mental preparedness, the flexibility to use these new tools as allies, not fight them off like threats.
That's it exactly. It's the crucial difference between being a leader, skilled for the old world, and being a leader actually prepared for the world that is already here, knocking on the door.
Okay, so that's the problem. Identified the brain, wired for safety, struggling with rapid change and AI. But the good news, and there is good news here, is that the same brain also holds the solution, right? Thanks to neuroplasticity.
Absolutely, neuroplasticity.
And this capacity for rewiring, it doesn't really have an expiration date. I was genuinely surprised actually reading that sometimes 60-year-old executives can actually rewire their thinking faster than 25-year-old managers.
It's true. It seems counterintuitive, but the ability to change isn't fundamentally tied to age. It's dependent on deliberate intention, purposeful effort. You have to consciously, intentionally force the brain out of its comfortable energy-saving safety lane. And based on the research, we've identified 4 specific requirements, 4 areas organizations really need to focus on to build these future-ready leadership brains.
All right, let's get into them. Requirement number 1.
Cognitive flexibility.
Okay.
This is all about strengthening that prefrontal cortex, your executive brain, essentially by forcing it to handle novelty and ambiguity. If you want to prepare a leader for situations that have no precedent, which is increasingly the norm,
Right.
they have to practice things like playing out complex what-if scenarios that don't have easy answers. A really practical training exercise. Spend maybe 15 minutes seriously arguing for a position you vehemently disagree with, just to force open new neural pathways.
Right.
Leaders have got to actively seek out that mental discomfort. Otherwise, the brain just defaults back to the old, safe, past solution every time.
Makes sense. Okay, requirement number 2 tackles that stress we talked about earlier, emotional regulation.
Yeah, this is critical. We established that uncertainty floods the brain with cortisol, that stress hormone, which basically paralyzes strategic thought. So leaders, especially those committed to this kind of intentional development, must master that stress response. Techniques like mindfulness, even just deliberate pausing before reacting, can work. They have to calm themselves first. Because, and this is key, calm isn't just a personal feeling, it's contagious. Just like panic.
Ah, interesting. So calm is contagious too.
Absolutely. The release of stress hormones, or the lack thereof, is signaled non-verbally across a team. If the leader stays calm and centered when things get weird, the team is far more likely to. If the leader panics, the team panics. So mastering your own stress response isn't soft stuff anymore. It's a core operational leadership skill in an uncertain world.
Okay. And number 3 feels especially crucial for managing that team panic, particularly in an AI-driven environment where jobs might feel threatened. Trust building.
You nailed it. In a world where this new technology triggers such deep, almost existential fear, the fear of being replaced, primarily trust becomes maybe the most powerful tool a leader has. Things like authentic connection, showing vulnerability appropriately. These actions release oxytocin, the bonding chemical in the brain. And oxytocin literally counteracts the fear signals fired off by the amygdala.
So trust acts like a buffer against the fear AI brings.
Exactly. If a team genuinely trusts their leader, the introduction of some scary unknown AI tool is much more likely to be met with curiosity, maybe cautious optimism instead of outright panic and resistance. Without that oxytocin buffer created by trust, the amygdala just runs the show, and frankly, no big change project is likely to succeed.
Okay, that's powerful. Finally, we have to talk about the tech itself. Number 4, AI literacy.
Right, and crucially, let's be clear, this does not mean leaders suddenly need to learn how to code Python or build neural networks.
Okay, good. That's a relief for many, I'm sure.
Yeah, it means they need to build pattern recognition. They need the capacity to ask the right questions of the machine and to understand its capabilities and, just as importantly, its limitations. Leaders have got to understand what the AI they're deploying can and can't do, realistically. And the best way to do this, experiment. Play with the tools. Don't just read the white paper or the marketing slides. Actively use them, even for small tasks. So the more you interact with these tools, the more your brain actually shifts from those initial fear circuits into learning circuits. You literally rewire the neural pathways associated with threat into pathways associated with utility or tool.
So, okay, if that's the prescription for the individual leader, cognitive flexibility, emotional regulation, trust, AI literacy, what does the organization need to do structurally? It really sounds like smart organizations should be fundamentally changing how they choose successors, moving beyond tenure, focusing on this idea of brain readiness.
Absolutely. And the organizations that are getting this right, they're taking some very practical, often long-term steps. First, and this is vital, they start now. You cannot wait until someone gets the fancy director title to begin their real training for this new reality.
Right. It's too late then.
Way too late. You need to give potential future leaders chances to play with AI, to handle complex, ambiguous curveballs now, in roles where mistakes won't, sink the entire ship. They need psychologically safe spaces to try things, fail, learn, and build those new neural pathways before the stakes get too high.
And alongside starting early, they must stop testing primarily based on historical performance metrics alone and start actively testing adaptability. Forget just the traditional questions.
Exactly. Stop asking only, did they meet their sales targets last quarter? And start asking questions like, okay, when that unexpected crisis hit, did they freeze up or did they figure something out? Can they genuinely learn from failure or do they just get defensive? Crucially, do they inspire trust when things get weird and uncertain.
Yeah.
You have to actually create scenarios, maybe during the hiring or promotion process, that test their cognitive flexibility and emotional regulation in real time. See how they react under pressure.
I think the next one you mentioned is maybe the most challenging culturally, but potentially the most effective, combining wisdom with innovation.
It is challenging, absolutely, because it requires overcoming those ingrained biases against change, both in younger and older leaders. But it means deliberately pairing experienced mentors with experimental projects, and maybe even more powerfully, implementing structured reverse mentoring.
Reverse mentor. Okay, tell us more about that. How does that work practically without, making the senior leader feel patronized or threatened?
It's all about the framing. The senior leader isn't being taught how to push buttons on the new software by a junior person. That's not the point. Instead, they're shadowing to learn how the younger leader thinks. How do they frame uncertainty? How do they approach problem solving with these new tools? How do they handle ambiguity? It becomes an exchange. Institutional wisdom and experience flows one way, while neural flexibility and new approaches flow the other way. Think about Mira. If her organization had fostered this kind of cross-generational learning and reverse mentoring culture, they might have identified her potential neural freeze around AI before promoting her.
Giving her time and support to adapt in a lower stakes setting first.
Exactly, allowing her to build those adaptation muscles safely.
And underpinning all of these strategies, it sounds like, must be that foundation of emotional intelligence.
It absolutely has to be. It's just not a soft skill add-on anymore. It's structural necessity for navigating change. It needs to be taught deliberately, systematically, helping leaders develop the self-awareness to recognize fear, that cortisol spike, that urge to freeze or push back in themselves first, and then giving them the skill set to help transform that fear, both their own and their teams, into something more productive like curiosity or a sense of shared purpose. That's how real structural change actually takes root and sticks. So look, the central choice facing pretty much every organization today is becoming clearer and clearer. Leadership transitions. They're happening constantly, every day, somewhere. And success in those transitions moving forward, it's not going to be about raw intelligence or past performance nearly as much as it's about this mental preparedness, this adaptability. If organizations ignore the brain science we've been discussing, if they don't actively work on strengthening cognitive flexibility, emotional regulation, trust, and basic AI literacy in their leaders, they're essentially giving these brilliant people impressive titles, but absolutely no tools to survive, let alone thrive, in the face of the changes AI is bringing.
So here's a challenge for you, the listener, to maybe reflect on as you look at your organization's next major promotion, or perhaps finding the replacement for that key retiring executive. Are you just replacing one person with their clone? Are you defaulting to the comfortable option that satisfies that primal urge for safety in the boardroom's collective amygdala? Or are you actively, intentionally preparing someone for the world that is already knocking at the door? A world that demands a leadership brain differently wired for continuous, unpredictable, uncertain change. Because, like it or not, the future really isn't waiting for our comfort zones.
This was today's Forbes edition of AI Cafe Conversations, your extra cafe or coffee flavor for Friday. Remember this: leadership transitions don't fail because leaders are not smart enough. They fail because their brains were not trained for uncertainty, adaptability, or AI readiness. Neuroplasticity proves it's never too late, but only if we start before the crisis hits. Smart organizations don't just promote people, they prepare them. They build leaders who can trust, adapt, and thrive with AI. The question is, will yours? Share this episode with someone. Show me some love. Love it, register, subscribe, share it with someone shaping the future of leadership. And join me next week as we keep bringing humanity and neuroscience into the AI conversations. This is Sahar, your AI whisperer. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn, it's Sahar Andrade. On Instagram, it's Sahar the Reinvent Coach. Like I said, show me some love. If you want any questions, email me to sahar@saharconsulting.com. If you have any comments, I would love to hear it. From now till we meet again, I wish you the best. I'm out and about for now.